I'd like to go ahead and call our Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, and it is 6:40 p.m. If I can please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Chairperson Cubillos.
Present.
Vice Chair Nickerson.
Here.
Member Roman.
Here.
Also present for the record, Councilperson Perella, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Cristia Lu, Village Manager, Interim Attorney Powell, Chief Magnuson. You have a quorum.
Perfect. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? And actually, before I get a motion, I'm going to add one item to before the tracking report. I'm going to add F1, message from the chief, and then we'll go right into the tracking report. May I have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of message from the chief, which would be F1, moving tracking report to F2.
Motion to approve.
Second that motion, Madam Mayor.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman, second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Perfect, hearing none. Approval of the minutes for the following meeting. Actually, before I go into that, to the attorney, would you like to read anything into the record? I know we've been doing Zoom for a few months now, but didn't want it, if you wanted to go ahead and read our rules into the record, please.
You're on mute. Now you sound like a chipmunk.
How's that audio? Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Much better.
For some reason, it's been happening a lot. Let me read the virtual meeting script, which is customary before every virtual meeting. On March 20th, 2020, Governor Ron DeSantis issued Executive Order number 20-69 relating to local government public meetings. The governor's executive order suspends current laws that require a quorum be present in person and that a local government body meet in a specific public place. It authorizes local governmental bodies to use communication media technology, CMTs, such as telephonic and video conferencing, as provided in section 120.54B2 of the Florida statutes. Further, chapter 28-109, entitled Conducting Proceedings by Communications Media Technology of the Florida Administrative Code, provides guidance for the procedures to be followed to conduct a proceeding by means of communications media technology or to provide access to a proceeding by use of a CMT. The governor's order does not waive any other requirement under the Florida's Constitution and Florida's government in the Sunshine Laws. The village is using Zoom to hold this virtual committee meeting. The Zoom platform does not require the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Zoom is a cloud-based platform for video and audio conferencing, collaboration, chat, and webinars across mobile devices, desktops, telephones, and room systems. Public comment will occur as they always do at the committee meetings, during good and welfare, and after each agenda item prior to voting. When the chair opens the meeting for public comment, anyone wishing to participate will have 3 minutes to speak. Here's some questions. How will residents be recognized to speak in the Zoom application? If you're using a mobile device, just click the raise hand button. If you're using your computer or personal computer, click on the icon Participants, on the bottom of your screen, you will see the option to raise your hand. There are two ways to view the meeting. On your screen, there's a gallery view and a speaker view. The gallery view allows you to view almost all the participants at the same time on your screen. In the speaker view, whoever is speaking will be viewed front and center, while other participants will be on the top in smaller squares. Please make sure to mute microphones when not speaking. If possible, use headphones to mitigate sound feedback. When addressing the committee, please first state your name and then your home address. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this virtual committee meeting and will be considered by the village council prior to taking any action. Everyone participating in this virtual meeting is required to maintain decorum. There's no clapping, applauding, heckling, or verbal outbursts in support or in opposition to a speaker or his or her remarks. None of that shall be permitted. No signs or placards shall be allowed. No person or other discussion, either directly or through a member of the committee, without the permission of the chair. No questions shall be asked of the committee except through the chair. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous, rowdy, disruptive, or making personal comments while addressing the committee, shall be barred from further participation in this virtual meeting by the chair. If at any time during the virtual committee meeting, the ability of the public to listen or participate is interrupted due to a technical problem, the committee meeting shall be immediately paused during such time and will resume when the technical problem is corrected. The village has published an agenda as well as included in the notice to the public pursuant to our village code and the items and topics that will be discussed in this virtual meeting. Additionally, the public has been given the opportunity to provide public comment. Moreover, section 28.0114, subsection 4C, Florida statute specifically authorized the village to prescribe procedures or forms for an individual to use in order to inform the committee of a desire to be heard, to indicate his or her support, opposition, or neutrality on a proposition or item. The village has provided a procedure to indicate, among other things, his or her support, opposition, and neutrality on the items and topics to be discussed at this virtual council meeting. Chair and committee members, are you all comfortable with all of the notice provisions set forth and these uniform rules or procedures we have established for this virtual committee meeting?
Yes.
Attorney, so I appreciate the comments. I'm going to add a few comments though. This is a committee meeting, and in an effort to mitigate miscommunication to the members who are not on the committee, they are able to opine on any issue, but only during public comments. They are not in the committee, so as such, they will not opine while the committee members are discussing. So with that said, so that there is no miscommunication, when I open up to any public comments, the members of the committee as residents can definitely opine on any issue that they would like at that point. Just want to make that clarify. This is a committee. This is not a council meeting. Other than that, I'm agreeing with everything you said.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, approval of the minutes for the following meeting. I don't know if the committee members have read it. I received it yesterday around noon and I have not read it. I have been working about 20-hour days and haven't had a chance. So I don't know if the committee has read the minutes from the last meeting, but I have not.
Madam Mayor, oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Council.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilperson Romero, you got it.
I read them. I thought that they were fine. There's only one thing that it's, again, with the names. Christia comes up as Christina sometimes, and then sometimes as Village Manager Alu. So, you know, I don't know if that's a big deal, but I would think that if we have minutes, we would want the corrected names.
Vice Mayor Nickerson?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is I read like 3/4 of it, so I was just going to say I had a quarter left to read. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and I apologize. I've been insanely busy, and I have not had the opportunity to read them. As I said, I received them yesterday around noon. So if you all are okay with it, this is July, right? So August. Our next meeting is September. I have no problem hopefully tabling it then, and we'll have this meeting and those to read, if the committee is okay with that. All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Yeah. Do we have to do a motion to table, or we can just table? Doesn't matter.
We can just table them.
Okay, yeah, we'll just table.
I'll table them for the September meeting. Okay, great. Thank you. Now I want to move on over to F1. We have a message from the chief.
Am I to read it?
Yes, please, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
apologize. Yeah.
Okay. Yesterday, just to preface what's going on, over the weekend, and I was sent from a variety of different people, some different opinions, so to speak, from different social media platforms. And I counted no less than 4 different people that I work with, that I'm fond of, or associated with, professionally, that they were basically attacked. Certainly unflattering comments. There was even comments of people that don't work here that I was taken a little aback by too, with the social media. So I put out something to my officers yesterday, just making it very clear where I stand on things like this. Listen, we want support from the community. I don't think there's a police department in the country that doesn't. And there's things we need, and there's things I will do my best to advocate for my officers. I will do all I can to get them what they need, and compensation included. That being said, what I don't want is something that may have gone on in the past. I can't say for certain, but I can tell you it stops in the future. It stops in the present. And that is to go lobbying people, apart from saying, listen, you got something to say, please attend the Zoom meeting for the council meeting, or show up when we can do that again. Show up at the council meeting. I think that's very healthy. Let's get a wide variety of opinions. But what I don't want from my police department is to go to people who in turn then start, for lack of a better word, playing games on social media, attacking people, and whether I agree with people or not, attacking people is the lowest common denominator you can go to. I don't believe in it. I don't subscribe to it. And I don't want my officers to be any part of it, even if they have nothing to do per se with what's printed. I don't want us mentioned in the same context as whatever's being spewed out there. So I put that out to my officers that I want it to stop. Or if it hasn't started with people, don't begin. That's not to say you shouldn't have a great relationship with the community, all people, whether you agree with them or not. This is community relations oriented, and we need to go down that route. But what we can't do is play agent provocateur to get our way, and to have ghostwriters put out stuff, or people with nothing but larceny in their heart and venom in their pen to attack. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want my department to be part of that. We need to rise above that. We certainly need to stay above it. So in writing to my officers, I think it was a good idea to address the residents of El Portal, and that means everybody. That means those that are genuinely supportive of the department, and means those that may be using the department's badge and uniform as a rail to convey their message. And what I wrote was the following: address letters to the residents of El Portal. Recently, I addressed the officers of the El Portal Police Department after I read something from the social media neighborhood hub next door. In the posting was a concern regarding rising crime, while it tied into our need for more cars and an opinion that part-timers don't want to come out and work with us due to the vehicle's condition. In the same post, though, there was a swipe taken at Councilperson Roman regarding cars, and Village Manager Cristia Liu regarding a recent impasse. What I told my officers, I shall relay to you as well. While there are some very well-meaning citizens looking out for the betterment of the police department, there are also some who have ulterior motives and will merely ride the badge and uniform of the police department in order to convey their message, whatever that may be. I will have none of that. I saw something ugly, and I want to put an end to it now, because experience tells me that this is only going to get progressively worse as time goes on, particularly as November draws near. The El Portal Police Department cannot allow to be mired down into the swamps of social media innuendo, attacks, and defamatory statements. And while it may have been commonplace in the past to walk such a tightrope, I'm here to tell you it stops under my watch. Our function is to provide quality, professional law enforcement to all the citizenry we serve. It most certainly is not our job to immerse ourselves in issues as they play out on social media by those looking to create a maelstrom of borderline treachery. Yes, there is equipment and personnel that we need. Yes, I am very supportive of my personnel to get increases in their pay, and I will continue to advocate for both. But there are proper avenues to achieve this. Sometimes these avenues are met with success. Sometimes they're not for a multitude of reasons. It will not be achieved by lobbying people for their support who then take to the anonymity of social media instead of voicing their concerns in person or on Zoom at council meetings, which is the proper procedure now. Quite frankly, I would hope that all people support the police department, their police department, with no strings attached, because it's something we have to earn each and every day. The Village of El Portal Council and Mayor Cabillos support the police department. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Since I became chief in May of 2019, with that support came immediate and sustainable successes, such as fully developed rank structure with a commanding officer and 2 sergeants, offering greater supervision and responsibility, enabling a path for upward mobility. Additionally, the implementation of take-home police vehicles, though developed prior to my arrival, came to fruition, and certainly with my blessing. Training is a paramount concern, and officers pre-COVID have been able to better themselves professionally with training. Much of the McGrath report has been achieved. We are getting audited and passing them with flying colors. Policies have been established, revised, and disseminated. All officers are within FDLE further certification, and the officers have been doing more than an outstanding job. There was a directive placed upon me when I became chief of police to bring excellence and stability to this police department after a previous tumultuous time span. During the last 14 months, the village council, mayor, and I have occasionally strategized in tackling a number of issues ranging from missing persons investigations to speeders, to collaborations with Miami-Dade County Police to combat gunfire that was having an effect across the canal with El Portal residents. This collaboration will continue. Equally important, open communication and information sharing has been enhanced greatly with the community. Crime Watch meetings have taken place, and most recently, new blocks are looking to get on board. Block captains have been a major source of important information dissemination. During recent times of COVID and area protests, this information sharing has been invaluable. Informative articles in the Peacock Express have kept the community apprised of important information as well. In other words, there is much to be proud of. No police department can ever rest on their laurels. There is much more to do. Occasionally, adjustments must be made to correct things that we can do better. But that is what's going to get us there. What will get us there is our unwavering commitment to continuously remain true to our mission statement. That is exactly why I will not allow the El Portal Police Department to revert to the ways that may have previously driven a wedge between various segments of the community who just do not agree on certain issues. We are here to serve everyone, whether we agree with their opinions or not. The police must not fall prey to the venomous and rather spineless anonymous attacks that are about as welcome as a hurricane season. While we cannot control that which is spewed on social media, we must fully realize it certainly is not our job to jump into the fray and help formulate or steer that opinion. We must avoid it like the plague. In the end, it will be our professionalism and respect for all via our actions that will serve us best. That is my commitment to you as Chief of Police. Respectfully, David Magnuson, Chief of Police, El Portal Police Department.
Thank you, Chief, for taking the time to put that together and send it to us, and moreover, sending it to the community. I don't know if the committee has any questions or comments with that. If not, I'll move on to the tracking report.
No, I have the comment. Was that emailed? I didn't receive a copy of that prior to this meeting, so I was wondering if
There was an initial call, there was an initial email that was sent to the clerk, and she did disseminate it to the residents. I've resent her not even an hour ago, actually the edited version. And when I sent it to her, I asked her to please CC the entire council,
Okay.
the manager and the attorney as well. So I'm sure at some point this evening or tomorrow, she will do that. But she must have gotten that email probably like within the last couple hours. if
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Let's go into the tracking report. I wanted to, I was taking a look to update it so I can send it to the clerk so you all can have it. And I'm going to go through a couple of updates, and I'm going to ask the manager and the chief to and to the committee if they have any, if I left anything out. So, as the chief just mentioned, the McGrath update, I know that we're have taken care of all the issues that we needed to, that was pressing, that was most important. I didn't know if the chief wanted to update any more than he did at the May meeting as it relates to the McGrath report. Did anything transpire between the May and now?
There's nothing more to update. What we are doing with the property is we're looking to piggyback with another larger department when they get rid of their evidence, when they're cleared the cases. We're looking to piggyback with them, or at least pay partially what we would normally have to pay, so we can get rid of boxes of old evidence and stuff that we no longer need. And certainly that will go a long way in completing the property room, but that is coming along. It's more than 85% done. It's the old evidence, which is boxed and it's properly concealed and everything as it should be, but we can get rid of it, and that's what we're trying to do. And we're looking also at quotes, if we can't piggyback with somebody, what the cost would be. It's not a whole bunch in comparison to larger agencies for sure, but we need to get rid of it. Otherwise, no, there's not much. In reviewing the McGrath report as I do, though, it is good to point out too that in the entire McGrath report, the one thing they never did talk about, and I know we can segue into this later, is the need of, or no talk of, needed equipment. I know back then, and we'll touch upon vehicles too, everything was fine, but needed equipment was never brought up under there on the McGrath report, and I looked for it. So that we can segue into that later. Otherwise, most of this, if not all, is just about done. And I think we're good to go with this. I don't believe it's no longer an issue. We're a lot better department because of it.
And thank you for that. I didn't add it to approval of the agenda, but for the committee, to the tracking report, I was going to add some items as we went along. And one of the items I wanted to have that I thought was important for the committee to start tracking are the fleet. Because as you all know, we all have cars, and our cars cannot, even though I drive a 2007, but cars do not last forever, especially when you're driving them as much as a police officer. But the point being is I think it would be important to start keeping what is not only police vehicles, but other materials that they may need, and how can that be budgeted? We cannot function where all of a sudden we receive an email and 9 cars are needed. If there is a plan in place to purchase maybe 2 cars a year, 2 cars every 3 years, or whatever the case may be, I think that's an important avenue and approach to take, as opposed to just sitting here and perhaps hearing from the manager and the chief saying, we need 8 cars. As you all know, with our budget, that's not something that we're able to so easily sustain, even if we had an amazing reserve. So it's got to be properly planned. So I am going to add, as we continue with the tracking report, is the fleet management. I think it's important that we're continuously aware. I sent the manager and the email, I sent the manager and the chief an email. We had a pre-meeting to this, and I sent them an email with regards to how many cars we have, how many are not functioning, how many did Enterprise consider taking it back, how many do we actually need as opposed to what we really, think we want or the fleet could use. So, and we're going to cover a little bit more of that, and I'm going to ask the manager to cover that, but I'm going to put that at the end of the tracking report, and then I'll commit to you all to update this tracking report and then send it back to you all. But as we go through it, again, I will add fleet management, and the other was the other COVID-19 that I'm going to add on there, and some other miscellaneous supplies that the police department needs. I think it's important to have in our tracking report supplies. The police officers don't just depend on a uniform and a car and a gun. They depend on other materials that they need, that I'm going to ask the chief and the manager to elaborate a little more when we get there. So if it's okay with you, again, I didn't add it as approval of the agenda, but it's just going to be a part of the tracking report, which the committee should continually always take a look and be aware so we can plan better in terms of budgeting cars and supplies. As we all know, the police takes up more than 40% of our budget, so we have to be aware of how the cars depreciate and how they're going to be replaced, and have a plan for depreciation for the vehicles and for supplies as well. So thank you, Chief, because I left that out and I apologize. But as we move through the tracking report, I'll be sure to add it, and I'm going to add fleet management on there as well. Okay. Is Councilperson Roman and Vice Mayor Nickerson okay with that? That we'll add as we go along, and then we'll open up the conversation and ask the manager and chief questions with regards to what their needs, what their wish list. There's a wish list. We all have a wish list, and then the actual need that we really can try to make an effort to make happen maybe for the next fiscal year. FDLE inspection. I don't know if the chief and the manager wanted to give any update on FDLE inspection from the time that we met May till now.
The FDLE inspection that we were going to have got delayed because of the COVID, the inability to come on down here. But we have been in touch. They've been telling us what we do need, in preparation when they do come down here. And we have everything. We're good to go. As far as the officers and their files, as a matter of fact, we had an updated inspection today on a file. It was done sending the information, via scan, but everything went well. So we're on top of that. We did the quarterly audit just now, just a couple days ago. So we're ready for that for the David once they want to inspect that. When they start making personal visits again, if not, we can scan it and send it to them, but we're good to go with that. So since May 5th, I believe, when the last meeting was, nothing has been updated, but we are still in contact with FDLE and staying in touch to see what exactly it is they need. They have to cancel, like I said, a scheduled date because they weren't allowed to travel out to the places. When that opens up again, they'll be here, but in the meantime, we're on top of it.
I have a question. As I see FDLE and in my personal business, I have to get a background check every 5 years. So to my recollection, so as long as I've been here since November 2008, I don't believe it was a policy or a procedure or a requirement for any employee to have a background check. But about maybe, I want to say, was it 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we all, and by we all, it was every employee, every elected official, the attorney who's not an employee, is a contractor, a vendor, and everybody else was mandated that they must take a background check because the way that we are all united in the village hall. So my question would be, are we okay with that? Because I know, for example, in my case, for my business, my employees and I have to do a background check every 5 years, and we have a third level background check. I don't know how FDLE works here. And then as I'm thinking a little further, I'm thinking that maybe I know the manager and the admin and finance committee recently have worked in the last couple of years through a manual. And I don't know if in the manual, and I confess I have not read it in detail, if the manual indicates that that's now a requirement based on the way we are aligned with the police department, that every person must have a background check. Because if not, then I think it needs to be clarified, because in the past, I don't believe it was ever a requirement for any employee to have a background check. I apologize.
Now, when you're saying a background check, are you talking about the fingerprint background check that's done where they go for the fingerprints?
That's what was mandated from all of us, and Vice Mayor Nickerson and Councilperson Roman, and I believe the manager Lou, and I don't think Norman was here just yet, but we were all like, the former interim chief was on us like, we had to get it done. And I think it was for the David system.
Because we have the CJIS right there. Nobody can be back there unless they've passed that. That is correct.
Okay, and we had to take it. So I guess my point is that that's still a requirement based on the way we all are all laid out. That I really think that either to the attorney, maybe it needs to be a resolution, or maybe it needs to go in the manual, so there's a clear understanding that as of, I don't know when that date was, that all of this came into place, and maybe the manager has a better memory than I do. Yes. And maybe we draw a resolution to indicate that effective this date, that's what was mandated, a background check.
It was March of 2018. Oh, I'm sorry, someone's speaking.
Go ahead. I was going to answer the question.
I was just going to say, yes, March 2018, we were all mandated to do the fingerprinting background check. Everyone who including our consultants. I know even Robert Ruano did the fingerprinting, because if you work or come back in the back offices where we're commingled with the police department, you must have the fingerprinting done. So we mandated that. That is already in the manual. It's been there for a while. So it's been a little bit over 2 years now. And to be an employee, you have to go through a background check, and that is stated in all of the interviews as well. So as far as I know, all employees have a background check presently.
Okay.
We're on par for that, and that is in our manual.
Because I know we all did it. I know everybody here has done it. I just want to be clear that the date that it was actually required, because prior to that it was not.
I have not, so if I need to do that, just send me whatever forms, I'll fill them out and submit them.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, and may I, Chair? I'm wondering if we need to put something together for the electeds as well, because we were a part of that fingerprinting, and I don't know.
We were required.
Right.
Well, I do recall back then one refused. He's no longer on the council now, but he just refused and stated he would not come in back. And, we tried to get an opinion on that, but
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did have one person refuse, but since then, we need to.
And Norman, I don't even know how that works out. So how would that, it's different to be an employee and an elected. So I just think that needs to somehow we haven't talked about it in a while, but I just saw FDLE and it just prompted me to think of that, because I had to send some employees to get their fingerprints done this week.
I don't know the answers to that. I have actually an office in the Miramar Police Department. We've never been asked to fingerprint or go through a background check as outside counsel. But again, the point is, if that's required for this particular department because of the way the layout is, just whatever paperwork's necessary, just send it, fill it out, send it in. I was not here when all that was going on. I came in at the very tail end of it. Actually, I was just appointed when there was back and forth between compliance, who was not going and why weren't they going and whatnot, but I wasn't there when the actual policy was disseminated or the reasons for it.
But I think in essence of consistency, and I guess not running into what Christia and her team ran into last time with a council person, we need to verify how that would go moving forward, because I completely forgotten about that case where someone did not want to go and refused to go and just said, oh, I won't go inside the offices. But I don't know that is something that we would want. As small as we are and with our space. So, that may be something that if Norman, maybe you could look into it, because we are different in terms of our space. So maybe that's why it's not come up, but I don't know.
So if I can ask, I'll ask Vice Mayor Christian if he wants to add anything, but if I can ask you to work on that with the chief, I would think that maybe if you guys can figure, I just want to be sure that there's something we need to have in writing to have clarity, because it would be unfair to have any employee come in and not think that, it's not necessary or it's not needed. And then boom, there's a surprise, I think that that's important. And then I think the elected officials is sort of on the other end, because that's very different in the sense that they're not employees. But then technically, if elected officials receive FRS, then I've been an employee. So I really think that needs to be looked at. And again, I don't think we need to be caught like it's not, I had not thought about that. It's been a little while, but as I'm working through the tracking report and I saw FTLE, it just prompted me to remember this, because I just had some employees go through it. So if I can have ask the attorney to please revisit that with the chief and the manager, and then get back to us to see if make sure there's anything we need to have in writing or anything that needs to be in compliance, and then and bring it forward to the committee.
Just if I may, because I know the word's been used interchangeably. We fingerprint people that are going to come on board to be hired. And if they're employees back there, we do a background, a much more intense background for police officers or not, part-time, non-compensatory. But for anybody else, that's going to come back or comes back to the station, they have to go through the fingerprinting, and that gets sent to FTLE. As a matter of fact, I got a report back today on someone. Everything was fine, but it comes back to me. But I don't know. I have not heard of anything as far as doing a full-blown background investigation. I just want to make sure if we're using words interchangeably, if they're two separate entities or we're talking about the same thing.
It's the fingerprinting, Chief.
That's right. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So if I don't know if you all have any more comments, but again, if I can ask the attorney and the chief and manager to please work on that together and get back to us if there's anything we need to do to be in complete compliance with that. And Vice Mayor Dickerson, did you have any questions or comments?
No, you guys, it was perfect the way you guys talked about everything. It was perfect. It was clear. I just want to make sure that the attorney is very important. So on one level, we have, would elected officials be considered employees because of FRS? And from that being a yes or a no, on the other level, we have, are elected officials required to have that done? Because I think that, I'm with Councilperson Roman, I think that it should be done just for consistency, but we don't want to get into a situation where we're like, okay, we write it down that it should be done, and then a future elected officials looks it up, and they figure out that it wasn't a requirement, and then we're in like a big little hassle then. So we really need to be clear on those two levels. That's all. Thank you, Madam.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. Like I said, I wasn't here when it came down. I'd like to see exactly what was sent to us from the FTLE concerning the village and what their requirements are. I'm sure they gave us something in writing telling us what we had to do. So that would be my starting point in looking at what the requirements are.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you just get back to us, either the manager will get back to us after she works with the chief and the attorney on that. Next, we have Circular Rotunda. I think the manager and I can say we have disappointing news. You know, I remember the last time we received an appropriation from Tallahassee, it was for more than $500,000. And I believe that was in 2017. And until now, that project with Orlando Rubio, who I see is on the call right now for Public Works, that project is hopefully going to be moving forward. But then we got Parkland one year, and right before the governor was going to make a decision, and a lot of the cities were vetoed. And this year we were vetoed again. As you all may know, we made an attempt, the manager and I, along with all of you, we made an attempt to achieve a rotunda, a circular rotunda that would come in the west side to calm the traffic a little bit for the kids that go to the school and for the police officers as they patrol the arrival and dismissal of the children. And there's been a continual complaints and concerns from many of our residents on the west side to have some type of traffic calming device on Northwest 91st with Northwest 5th Avenue. And I will tell you that our lobbying team was able to achieve an actual appropriation line item for $300,000. But we just received an email within the last 7 days that from our lobbying team, Ackerman and Elaine Orteles, that was vetoed along with other items that the governor is now vetoed because, as we all are aware, we're living in a new reality called COVID-19. And so I don't know if the manager wants to add anything to that, but our circular rotunda, I do encourage all of you who are here and will continue to be here, that I do believe that a circular rotunda on the west side is nothing but a compliment. Not only was it the purpose of to calm traffic, but it was also to identify who we are on the west side. Exactly like our current county commissioner placed one right in front of the village hall. So we wanted to do one exactly the same on the west side. And in fact, we met with her, and although we had not gotten the okay, she just wanted more information on it. And I believe that if we were able to have achieved this appropriation and the information that she needed, which we had given her as part of it, it would have been a collaboration with the county to be able to have a circular rotunda that would emulate the east side. So I don't know if you have any questions for either the manager or myself, but the lobbying team did tell me that that item of $300,000 was initially approved by the Senate and the House, thanks to Dottie Joseph, who does a lot of our plotting and sharing in Tallahassee with our team up there. We got that appropriation, but then it was recently vetoed.
And I have nothing further to add, except that, you know, it was very exciting to go through the um, legislative steps to get there. We were all on par, and it looked fantastic getting through the House and then the Florida Senate, and then ultimately on to the governor's desk. But when COVID-19 struck, all bets were off, and so that is why we lost that appropriation. But I mean, it's sad. We'll keep trying, but we had some big ideas, and we were very happy to have so much support. So we'll try again.
Yeah, we were excited that they actually even said that they would agree to it, and they appropriated 300,000, which, and in actuality, the quote that we had gotten from Orlando Rubio, who again is on the call, and maybe we'll talk about it in Public Works along with other items, was about 300,000. Maybe it would have been a little more than that. So anyway, so I would encourage the committee to continue. You never know what can happen next legislative year, because I do think that that would be something that the residents would truly appreciate having out here. I think it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the village because it would calm the traffic. It's a win for the students to go to Horseman because it's safer for them. And it's a win for the police department because those that like to speed can't just like zoom out of here because there's not a speed bump that go there. They have to go through the rotunda. So I think it's a win-win-win. With that said, there was also the idea of having a four-way stop sign potential intersection. I would ask the manager maybe to follow through, continue with the manager of North Bay, with Miami Shores, because as you all know, and if you don't, I will let you know that the west side really, we're with Northwest 91st Street, and we share the same street. So if there's a way that we can do a four-way stop sign where the rotunda was going to be, would also be another approach to be able to calm traffic a little bit. But because El Portal, Miami Shores, and the county share 91, because 91st Street on Northwest 2nd is El Portal. But if you go west to Northwest 3rd, it becomes not only Miami Shores, but it becomes the county on one side. So I would encourage the manager to maybe continue or start the dialogue with the manager of Miami Shores as well as the county, because a four-way stop sign may be an alternative because we didn't achieve that circular rotunda. That's why I had put it there. I'm excited to see that we did a walkthrough several months ago, and I know that I saw in Public Works that you all are going to have a conversation. I don't think I'm going to be able to be on that call, but I will hear about it at the council meeting if it passes and it goes there, that there is a study, I believe, that you all are going to bring forward to the council. So I think that's great, and I look forward to hearing more about that. And I didn't know if the committee had any more questions with regards to the FP&L, a pilot program that I believe you're going to be presenting to Public Works. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We'll present later.
Okay. I saw that on the agenda. I don't know if the committee members had any questions with regards to either the four-way stop sign, the circular rotunda, or the lighting that I think will come up in the Public Works meeting. Okay, village-wide speeding. You know, Chief, I got to tell you something. This is never going to go away. I've said it once before, and I'll always say it, that I won't understand, and I really encourage the committee. I encourage the manager, and I encourage the chief to really have a sit down with Miami Shores, because to be able to better collaborate, it would really help if we were sharing the same message. Miami Shores has a village-wide, and they're also a village like we are. They have a village-wide 25 miles an hour. There has been countless times that the former manager, Adam Old, and former members that have asked for this, and the county has come to us, has had town halls, and we've always gotten a no. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting, and almost, I don't even understand how it would be no, when many years ago, before any of us were here, Miami Shores was able to achieve having streets closed. When they had their streets closed, it only impacted us. We have more traffic, we have more speeding, because Miami Shores was able to achieve the closure in their streets. So we had an interim manager before David Roseman, the interim manager Basil Binns. Basil Binns met with Tom Benton, and Basil Binns asked Tom Benton, what can we do for any impact fees? Because I mentioned to the manager back then, there has been a definite impact to our town since the streets have been closed. That is why, well, let me rephrase that. That's part of the reason why 90th Street is so porous. That is why 90th Street has a lot of damage on that street, because what happens is you can no longer traverse through Miami Shores. You can't go through 91. You can't go through 92 on the east side. You can't go 93, but you can go through Upper South all the way. You can literally get off I-95, cut through El Portal, and hop on to go to Midtown, hop on to go to the beach, which many do. So we have had former council members on this dais that have really, Miss Brooks, which I have not seen in a long time, has used to come to these meetings regularly, and she would ask for, what are we doing to help the streets on 90th Street? Because they are so porous, they are so damaged. And I have always said, now it happens with time, I know that, but more importantly, it happens because we're impacted by that closure. So Basil Binns didn't have any success back then, but there was several years ago. I would encourage the encourage the committee, as well as the manager, to have conversation. I'm a believer that, every no is closer to a yes. But we should ask. We never know what council person, what vice mayor, what manager, what chief could potentially get the yes, that the Miami Shores would be willing to come to the table and have a conversation with us with regards to how can we make this work better. It's really hard to be a city, village next to somebody else's, and our rules and our streets are so intertwined, but yet they're exactly connected. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I remember that the individual at the county level that was in charge of that was retiring. Am I mistaken on that? And
You're correct.
And there's a new individual, correct, to talk to, or has the individual that was retiring, have they left yet?
I believe they have. I know what you're saying, and I recall exactly what you're saying, and I believe she has. And I know the manager has a lot of, because we're in constant contact as it relates to those in the county, public transportation, public works. I mean, we're in constant communication with that. I don't think this has ever come up, because I don't think this is something that's going to be resolved overnight. I think this is going to be resolved over time, and I also think a little persistency is going to be necessary. But you are right. There was someone who retired and is no longer there. So it's new blood, maybe it's new conversation. But I do believe that at some point, El Portal needs to be compensated and rewarded, or this conversation needs to just continue, because when streets are closed, there's always going to be impact to the neighboring street. It just goes without saying, especially when you have Biscayne Boulevard, Publix, and all that good stuff. So I didn't know if the manager wanted to add anything to that, or any other members of the council committee.
Just that we have discussed this a bit. I've tried a deeper dive other times, and then I was told no, but I think it's time we can go back. I mean, we're working on some other matters with transportation and public works, so I can ask again. And if you could remember the departments, because sadly, I mean, it's a huge department, so I do need that history just to trace back and then see who's replaced whom and get to that point, because a lot of times I will end up in the wrong department of a department. And, so I just need a little tracing back, and I can move forward with that.
And I think there's two separate conversations. There's a conversation with the county, because the county comes in and does the traffic study. And I think the second conversation is either with the mayor or the manager of Miami Shores. The beauty is that we do have a new mayor in Miami Shores who's been there almost a year, and quite active and quite progressive and quite open to hearing conversation and ideas to be able to move sort of not only their municipality, but the surrounding communities more together and more forward. So I think that's a real opportunity to be able to have that conversation with the new mayor. I think she's been there, I think, a year, and I think last April, I don't recall exactly, and maybe with the new manager. And hey, it's not about getting the money. It's about having some type of a conversation to how we can help those roads that do not help the cars, do not help, our senior citizens or anything of the nature. We have a very young population now, that we have a lot of families walking with strollers. When you're pushing the stroller, it hits all the roads. When the police talk about vehicle maintenance, when you're going through those roads, it tears through the tires, so
Right.
I think that that's a conversation that can be a gradual one, and I think that you all can be potentially very successful if we continue that conversation.
Okay.
Any other comments from the committee, or recommendations or suggestions? All righty. So there you go. I put two separate lines, village-wide speeding program, because that was more something if we could talk about with Miami Shores. If they were able to achieve with the county a village-wide 25 miles an hour, how can we not? So it would be a great conversation and collaboration to have with them. It would only be to their benefit as well, to be able to have and even I would even go as far as including Biscayne Park. I mean, with 3 villages that when you put us together, what do we total? Maybe 20,000 residents, maybe if that. What a benefit it would be to all three villages to be able to have the same speed zone, 25 miles. If Miami Shores achieved it, why can we not achieve it? So, I would encourage the committee and the manager to open that conversation, reopen that conversation. And then the next line, I put MDC because that's the Miami-Dade County conversation. Okay, monthly police statistics. I don't know if the chief wanted to give us an update. I know there's been an uptick on burglaries. Last night, I don't know about any of you, but helicopters were going wild and crazy. The chief is great about sending messages at 12 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. I always think it's great sometimes to be the county, because the county sends you these amazing messages. Stay at home, there's a curfew. Stay at home, it's safer at home. Amber alert. Is there a way that maybe we can let the residents know? Because, hey, if helicopters are going around, Chief Magnus, with all due respect, you don't live here, but they're loud and they're like hovering right over you and nothing for nothing, but it's kind of a little frightening. So I don't know if you can enlighten us with not only what just happened last night, but moreover, if there's a way that we can kind of like let the residents know sort of what's going on. And I think Miami Shores uses, is it called Nexus? I'll open it up to
I'm
you.
not sure what these. But last night there was a burglary in the Shores. They had them in a perimeter. I know we backed up the Shores to cover a perimeter post. And the same thing happened last week. There was a big incident over in the county, just out of our jurisdiction. It was in the afternoon though. And they needed whoever could, any municipality, whoever can fill in the gaps for their perimeter. And so we assisted there as well. This person ended up getting out of the perimeter, and later he was seen in one of the places in the backyard in El Portel. We did a report on that. We have a video. We shared the info with the Shores. It's the same guy. He had on a basketball jersey last night, a Lakers basketball jersey. And there has been an uptick, and not so much in the car break-ins. I mean, we had an uptick last year in August, a big uptick, until Officer Tynes sat on a place and caught the guy, and then we didn't have a car break-in for 2 months, and that's how that plays out. What we're having now is a variety of different people, and it's not just here. It's in the Shores. It's in Davis Harbor, just on the other side of the boulevard, because I get their Crime Watch updates too, and whenever they have video, I get that and share it with our guys, because it's all the same offenders. Now they're going into sheds in the backyard or taking stuff. That's a burglary. It's a curtilage. When we see in the burglary uptick, as has been reported, yes, statute-wise, it's a burglary. It's not house being broken into. I want to convey that. There's an occasional one of those, but that's not what we're talking about. What you're seeing is people, and we set up a month ago when we had a spike in these things, and we recognized one guy for a video, and here he comes over North Miami towards 88th Street again. And 2 of the officers working a detail, would put him on a detail, they caught the guy, and it stopped in that area. And that's what it's going to come down to. We're going to set up on details and catch these guys. I'm not saying that the curfew helps any, because these people, they're not going to be scared by the curfew. They're out there. If we stop people, or we keep an eye on people, let me say that a little better, if they're walking around 2, 3 in the morning off the main drag. Because they should know, nobody should be riding a bike or walking around a neighborhood unless they live there during the witching hours of 1:30 to 4:30 in the morning. That shouldn't happen. They're up to no good. If they're on Northeast 2nd walking north or south, that's a different story, maybe, but not in the neighborhoods. And so we got to intensify. There's an uptick. I was able to define the boundaries of that uptick, and we're just going to work something and set up on them and try to catch them, and work hand in hand with the shores as well, and the county for over Davis Harbor or farther north in the county. As far as statistically go, yeah, there's been more car break-ins this year than last year, but they did spike again towards the end of July and August of last year. Hopefully that we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen this year. As far as stolen cars, we had 7 stolen cars last year through June. We don't have any, knock wood, now. So you know, you pick your crime. That's not to say that we're not going to have stolen cars, but there's been a big difference in that. Disturbance calls were more last year, which is surprising because more people have been in the house up to the moment. Alarm calls doubled last year as they are this year, maybe because more people are home. There's always explanations to these statistics by and large. The more violent crimes, thankfully, we're doing well. I will say this though, in terms of speeding and traffic, last year at this time, we had 15 accidents that we handled up through this time. At the time of the report, with the hit and run today, we've had 5. You're talking 3 times as less accidents, which is kind of ironic because if you're on the highway, maybe not so much in the streets in the city, but on the highway, at least at the beginning part of the COVID lockdown and all, it was like Daytona. People were just speeding. It's a little bit more traffic now. People have slowed down a little bit more. Burglaries, we're at the same as we were last year. The car break-ins, again, more this year, 12 to 4 than last year. But we did have a major uptick in August last year. And so that's where we are statistically. Suspicious persons calls or cars, there's been more last year than this year, but that's also subjective. People, you know, you have to make sure people are calling. That's a word we want to put out when they see something suspicious to call us. So just because we have less doesn't mean there's less suspicious people. They might not be calling as much, or we're not having as much issue in those neighborhoods because more people are home most of the time now, or they're just trickling back to work. There's many more reports were written last year through June as they were through this year. And that's good for a number of reasons. It's by and large, there's less incidents because we write reports for everything. There's less incidents going around that would necessitate us up to halfway through this year to write as much as we did last year. So statistically, that's what we're doing. My focus crime-wise right now are the curtilage burglaries or the sheds, going into sheds. And again, the commonality is 1:30 to 4:30 in the morning. The officers are aware of it. We did set up a detail a month ago for a specific spike, and we caught the guy. It's time we're going to have to do it again and see where it takes us. Everybody has the videos. They have pictures. We put out the bolos. We share it with the shores. We share it with the county and Biscayne Park. Biscayne Park helped us with a case last week. It didn't turn out to be the person, but we had somebody on a bike that ended up using the charge card. We were able to put out a photo and everything. They came up with a guy that could have been his twin. It wasn't him though. We went out there with Biscayne Park. We checked the guy out. It wasn't him. So we still have that bolo out there. So they are following up and it relates back to the McGrath report. The officers are following up with the cases. They are taking it to the next level. It's not always going to be successful. It's not, but certainly an A for effort in going down, shaking down leads, and occasionally it has paid dividends. And we're looking to catch this guy or guys that have been pulling these shed burglaries shortly. I can't hear you. Mute.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I thank you for that. And before I go into a little bit of that, I just want to make a comment that I forgot to reiterate in the beginning. I don't know where the clerk is, our clerk is right now, and maybe she's there, but I want to reiterate it, and I keep meaning to ask the attorney this, but I really think it's important that whether it's a committee or a council meeting, whoever the members are need to be visually present. So I asked the clerk, I don't know if you're there, if you're okay, if you went to the restroom, but I think it's really important that the residents always see, Councilperson Perella, Councilperson Auburn, they're fine, but I think it's important that all of us are present to be seen at all times.
I am here, but I don't feel well. So instead of not coming at all, I decided to come in and hear it. I'm not feeling too good. Is that okay with you?
Not everything is okay with me. I think it's just important. If you're not feeling well, then I think that we need to know that, but I think it's just important for that. So let's move forward. So Chief, I wanted to go on what you have just said. And some of the things that you were saying is that and I know that you all provide the statistic reports for us. So I guess Yanis, are you going to just stay offline? Is that what it is? So, okay. So if there is a way that, part of what you said, I'm finding that's information that would be necessary for the residents to know. I'm just trying to find the way, and I don't know if the committee will want to chime in, to be able to get that information, whether it's the officer who works with, Crime Watch to disseminate the information, because we've been using those block captains often, a message that you sent out today. But I think it's important to be able to put out what's being done. We're so small, and I think what's happened is when we see an uptick of burglary during the day, all of us get worried. All of us drive, all of us live here for the most part, for the majority, or maybe half of us who live on this call, who are on this call. So if there's a way that we can just let the residents know. And then that's when I thought of either Nexus or something like that, from last night when I heard the helicopters. And when you were telling me a little background, I think it helps to know. So again, I asked the committee if you have any questions on that. Just kind of like, how can we get that information out? I know you're great about writing an article in a newsletter, which always helps in the hopes that they're reading it. But I think it's just important to try to get that information out. So
I can put out current trends as they're happening. That's not a problem. I'd be more than happy to do that. Ship it out to the block captains for dissemination. And what we try to do also, and what we have said to numerous in emails to other people, is in the middle of the night during those witching hours, when you have to get up for one reason or other, water, nature calls, what have you, make it a habit to go to the window. Just look out the window. Yeah. You shouldn't see any car going 5 miles an hour down your block. You shouldn't see a person or people walking or a bike going down your block at 2 a.m. And then call 911. You need a quick response. We'll get out there immediately. There's no traffic. There's not that many calls. There's very few calls really in the middle of the night. The problem is for the night officers, that's the perfect time to do proactive stuff and keep an eye on things. Things that happen at night, it's the daytime officer that gets stuck with the report. That being said, it's the mindset, and it's a Crime Watch thing, and we've put it out too. But other tips, it doesn't have to wait for the articles. I'd be more than happy to put them out. But I think one thing that goes far is for people to go out and take a look outside the window. If they have a Ring camera, turn up the volume on it, because a lot of times it should wake you up if it's all quiet and all of a sudden that whatever chime you have on that goes off, you should run to the window or upstairs, wherever you are, and take a look out and see what's going on. Because all too often what we're getting is people see it the next morning, the ring, which tells me that they have the ring very low or it's not near them, because it should wake them up when that chime goes off out of the blue. So there's a number of tips we can give. I'd be more than happy to continue on. I've done that, for a long, long time. That's not a problem with that. As far as these things with the helicopter, I don't know how that would work out. I understand people are concerned what's going on. We did get a couple calls last week when there was another crime in El Portal, and they thought the helicopters were for that crime, and it wasn't. It was for something that happened in the county. That was a major incident at that time. And maybe make people rest a little bit more easy, but at 2, 3 in the morning, I don't know who's going to see it. Maybe the next morning we could put out something again to say what happened last night. This is what took place. It wasn't anything that happened in El Portal, or maybe it was. And we were assisting, and the helicopter was flying overhead. And you're going to get that a lot, especially in the county jurisdiction, with some of the things that may go on where the chopper's flying. So however we can do that, I'm all ears for that. But as far as putting out the information or whatever crime spikes are going on, I'd be more than happy to do that. It's not a problem.
Vice Mayor Nickerson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was thinking that because when we first began this, and I'm not on Nextdoor, but the chief, when he said what he sent out about Nextdoor, so it seems like there's a lot of things that happen on Nextdoor. throughout history, unfortunately, most of it is a lot of gossip and negativity, but maybe we can use that since a lot of people are on there for positivity, right? So like we could do stuff like in a friendly way. So let's say, for example, when the chief just said, which made me think about this, about the Ring, about people that have the Ring, cameras. So we could do something like, let's say like on a Monday morning, we could say, dear fellow villager, remember, as you go back to work this week, make sure your Ring camera is working. If you have, you know what I'm saying? Or like, dear villager, as we go into the weekend, make sure that all your doors are locked. And dear villager, we just send things out like on random days and things like that. And you can also use that if we do have something like a helicopter situation or something like that, you can send it out through Nextdoor. And we can maybe we can start to turn Nextdoor into more of a positive thing, at least from the village of El Portal, from our side, right? We can start doing things like that.
Yeah, be more informational, which I think when it was first started, and I so clearly remember when it was first started by Barbara Fuchsel and Jason Walker, it was all to deliver, and it was all to build community, deliver information, and all of us share information. So that would be a great way. I mean, and I don't know if the chief, I see the attorney's hand raised, but I'll let the chief answer real quick.
We do that. We do put out tips. We do put out be alerts on Twitter. And you're right, Nextdoor has great potential. It's unfortunately though it gets hijacked. And I've already expressed my feelings on that, but yeah, it's a perfect vehicle to put out stuff. I see it on other areas where they talk about crimes, or even the Ring reports. But we do that. We do put out information. We do it on Twitter. We do it on Facebook. Information that's important to people or what to look out for. We did it just recently. It wasn't a crime per se, but when an older gentleman that we all know, walked off and was missing for quite some time, we were able to gather school board units and a lot of great help and put out a lot of information to a lot of people. The gentleman was found up in Broward County. I mean, God bless him, he's fine, but we were able to rally people around from that vehicle, and that's the beauty of it. So you're absolutely right. We just, we'll continue on what we've been doing and maybe enhance it a little bit more.
Anybody else from the committee? I think the attorney had his hand raised. Go ahead.
I was just going to offer some input. In the past, I've worked on a couple of agreements with Everbridge and Nixle, and they're specifically designed for the police departments and fire departments to give push notifications to residents who sign up for the service. So that would enable you, Chief, to give real-time messaging about local public safety issues. And my experience with those agreements is that the cost is very nominal. So, I can put as things to do number 2 to just basically look into that with you. And
that would be fine.
And we can present that at the next public affairs meeting.
That looks good. Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, Miami Shores used to use Nixle.
Yeah.
But my recollection is that I think Nixle and Everbridge are like one company now, and it's still the same type of platform. So like if there's like a traffic accident or a break-in or something, you could just go right in and control the information and push notifications to the residents who sign up for it on their personal devices.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. That would be great. Thank you. I think we'll appreciate that. Does the committee have any other comments about that? All right, hearing none. I don't know if the manager or the chief has any comments with community policing, senior watch, ESAC, crossing out Do the Right Thing. I don't think any events are going to be happening. Do the Right Thing would have happened in July. Give us an update on the decoy car and the cop grants. Senior watch, ESAC, community policing, Do the Right Thing, decoy car, the cops grant, and community policing. Yes. Any update that would be different from our May meeting?
No, the decoy cars have to be put into use because of the fleet, which we'll again segue into. So we don't have the ability for the decoy car right now. They are being used, and one of them is down for the count. As far as a grant, as a matter of fact, today we came in, we did get approval on a small JAG grant. that I'll be putting together and meeting with you and the manager later on during the week, or we'll make it work how we're going to get this done. It's time sensitive. We'll send it back, and we should get some funding, which is good. So we've been working on that. Some other grants that have popped up. It didn't pan out. But we are continuously working. I do get updates. I get emails from grant.gov. I go through them. So we're working on that. You asked one other question, you said, beside the decoy car and the grants?
Before I get into that, the grant that you all have looked at and that you may get, what would that be used for?
Officer wellness was the category underneath it. It was, there was a couple categories, and it was under officer wellness, officer safety and wellness.
So is that training, vests?
It could be training. It could be training. I'd have to get a well-rounded definition on it, but yes, it would be training. It could be training. There could be some equipment to deal with that too. Again, it didn't fall under the auspices of equipment purchase, but I would have to get the parameters, and I'll get the parameters of what is acceptable to that. It's going to be a it's going to be a $1,700 reward out of a total from all the municipalities of $624,000.
Also, to add to the grants item, Mayor and members of the Public Safety Committee, Robert Ruano and I worked with the department in putting together the application for a grant it's for
Mitigation.
critical facilities, and it was to harden the village police department in as many ways as we can, and so we are applying for a generator that would be a built-in, as well as window replacements to make them more sustainable, as well as doors and air conditioning units. So that every bit helps, and we even applied for the $50,000 to accomplish those goals from a HUD federal grant, CDGB or BG. I'm sorry, I always mix it up. So that was applied for on June 30th, and so we're hopeful for a positive outcome in the coming weeks. We'll keep you posted.
Before I go to Councilperson Roman, and the dollar amount for that, I see Robert on, I don't know if you need him, but what dollar amount for that was?
$50,000.
Councilperson Roman?
I'm just wondering, since we're speaking about grants, if there are ever any grants for vehicles that could be used, monies that could be used for vehicles, if that's ever anything that anyone's ever heard of.
I haven't seen it specifically for grants. There may be matching funds. I'd have to look into that. If there's matching funds, you're going to have to come up with, quite some money to have it matched, obviously.
Well, I mean, we have to come up with the money anyway to get vehicles. So if there's, matching monies that could make it a little bit more feasible, and we can budget and plan for that, I think that'd be worth looking into.
I haven't seen any
Not for
grant
cars.
vehicles, but perhaps Chief can look into it.
Mhm.
That'd be great if we could find it.
Yeah, because then you guys can, you came with the idea for the enterprise cars, which was a great idea, but there's no way to fund it. So, if we can find a way to maybe get even half of that, a matching, and try to put a plan into that, I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Maybe Robert Ron, who I know is on the call, maybe as he's listening, maybe something you all can take a look at. I mean, it may not exist, and if it does, I'm sure it's going to be highly targeted. But it's, anything and everything is worth looking at as we further the discussion on being able to bring in police cars annually.
Or maybe something that's for like small village departments, something that's specifically for a village of our size, small cities or something like that.
Now, I will tell all of you that, for those of you who are in business or who are not in business, those of you who are in business understand to make money, you've got to put out the money, right? So last year, actually during this exact time, at the opportunity that I paid for myself, I went to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And one of the things that I learned while I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors was that once a city is a member, you have the opportunity to apply for more grants. I don't know the exact cost of membership for a city of our size. I was, through my colleagues in Miami-Dade County that were there, who like to, as much as I think they do love us, they, kindly joked when I was there, but we were all through conversation and collaboration. I know that for larger cities, the cost is high, but I will give you an example for example, Doral. Doral, a couple of years ago, received a grant in the amount of, I don't recall the dollars, but I'm going to find that amount because Mayor Bermudez has specifically mentioned it to me because he knows, he's pretty well versed in our city as we have a lot of conversation. And he said, hey, you really need to take a look at this. So while there's a cost to doing things like that, I think that maybe not now, that it's not the right time, but something to put as part of our track plan, as we put in a track plan of, how are we going to be able to purchase more cars, and how are we going to be able to do all the things that we need to provide better resources to the department. Maybe becoming a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, because the quality of grants and the amount of grants, which some of them have over $500,000. Could you imagine getting a grant for over $500,000 for our police department? And I mean, that'd be pretty spectacular. But all that takes time and takes opportunity and takes doing the homework and takes actually being a member. So I will remind the manager on that she could either call the manager there, and I will ask Mayor Bermudez about that specifically, because that was a year ago. And I remember when he said that, it kind of stuck in my notes as something that, while it's not the right time right now, it's be something that I think that you all need to take a look at down the road, being a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I see a hand up. Vice Mayor Nickerson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that I just wanted to say, I think that what you said is very important, because I think that right now things have changed, right? Because of the COVID-19, there's not a lot of public events, and there's not a lot of public things to go to. But in the past, a lot of people, and I've heard, there's not a lot of people, but I've heard in the past where sometimes you might have individuals and residents that might say, well, why do they pay this money to be a part of, Miami-Dade League of Cities? Or why do they pay this money to be a part of this? Or why do they pay this money to go to like this Miami Shores event or whatever it is? But you guys have to understand that the way government works is that you have to make these connections and you have to make these relationships. And so exactly what the mayor was just talking about, these are the reasons why when you guys will see that when things go back to hopefully the old normal, that we're still a part of these organizations and we go to these events, because we have to make these connections, because it does yield a return that will help us in the future. I just want people to understand that kind of stuff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Vice Mayor Nickerson. No, collaboration, and I will say that there is a silver lining to COVID-19, and I believe the silver lining has been that the managers talk more regularly than I probably ever have. I know that the manager today was on a call because her call was at about 2:00 and mine was at 3 with all the mayors, and one of them was late because one of them was on the call with the executive board. So I say that there's been a silver lining where I believe that there has been a connection with all of us, because we're all going through the same either pain, frustration, or just concern that our families and our constituents are all facing, because we're all severely impacted by COVID-19. And this is a time that I think we all agree that if we can collaborate and share resources a little better, that we're all better because of that. And that's why we create and develop relationships. So I know that yesterday when I spoke to the manager and the chief in preparation for tonight's meeting, one of the things that we touched on was, how can we collaborate with the relationships the chief has with City of Miami? I've reached out to somebody in Miami Beach, because right now this is budget. And for those of you who are listening, Councilmember Perella and Councilmember Urban, who are now attending as a public, and to Councilperson Roman and Vice Mayor Nickerson, we're all in budget and government. And when you develop relationship with the cities around you, and you develop good relationships and honest relationships, they're more inclined to want to help and give back. There are other cities besides ours who are a little more fortunate as it relates to budget and sizes and all of that. So while we may not have gotten a great return from Homestead and Doral, but we got something. We've received cars in the time that I've been here. We have received material for the police department from Miami Beach, North Bay Village, Doral, and Homestead. And that has all been about relationship driven. None of them had to do that. From golf carts to cars to that water thing that we used to use to be able to water the plants around Public Works. Granted, it was all used and is not in the best shape, and hopefully we can, Enterprise can give us a few dollars back to make up for the money that we spent for it. But again, this is the time we're in budget. So I say this is the time, if you have relationships with the city of Miami, if you have relationships and all in an ethical course of line, all cities deplete their fleet. They deplete their fleet and they purchase new equipment and they purchase new cars, and they generally give away, or we have done in the past, we sold our really old cars for $1,000 or $500, and it goes back to the police department. But as I mentioned to the chief, this is a good time, and I tell all of you, this is a good time to contact those cities and anybody you may know. You never know. While Doral gave us 2 cars, only one works, but hey, that's one that we didn't have before. So everything helps and works together, and it makes kind of our cities a little better for it, because when there comes to be a disaster, boundaries really don't exist. They're all imaginary anyway. So as I said, we're in budget. As you all know, we have a budget workshop. As you all know, we have hearings in September. So take the opportunity to contact those that you may know. And even if nothing comes from it this year, there's always next year. There's always next year. Anything else from those items? So I want to talk a little bit, and I know I'm running a little late. It's 8 o'clock, and I want to wrap up really quick. So I'm not going to go over Ring. As far as the National Night Out, I've been in conversation with a couple of those who, companies who want to maybe donate to the village. I will get with the chief and with the manager with regards to what that plan is going to look like. As you all know, we've done a National Night Out for years now, and it's the first Tuesday in August. And we have done what's called a siren parade. And then in the last couple of years, to be more equitable across the board, we put our backpack giveaway that same night. Because of COVID-19, things are a little different. So I'm getting my feelers out there as far as what that may look like as it relates to backpack giveaway. So I will ask as I meet with the manager and the clerk, manager and chief, if you have any ideas, let us know. If not, when I meet with them, I'll have the clerk disseminate some information, but just keep in mind that the National Night Out is always the first Tuesday in August. Now, National Night Out is also recognized in some cities the first Tuesday in October. So my thought process was maybe not have it on National Night Out in August, because it's quite hot here anyway, and there's COVID-19 is not going anywhere. So maybe it's something we potentially do for the first time in August. But again, I want to meet with the manager and the chief. And also I want to take the opportunity to, as I meet with the county regularly via Zoom meetings and medical professionals with the county, to give us updates on COVID, to get a better idea of where we're at. I mean, we're still in July. August is right around the corner, but I will commit that I will make an email commitment to the, after speaking to the manager, clerk, and other manager and attorney, manager and chief, and then I will get that information to you through the clerk with regards to whether or not it's going to be again in August or it'll be in October. I don't know if you guys have any questions with the National Night Out, but I know that that National Night Out goes along with October, which is National Crime Prevention Month, as well as our backpack giveaway that we've had for so many years now. Just wanted to let you know that that's where I'm at with that. Any questions? I know that the chief has spoken already about officer training, which I know they've been really diligent on. I wanted the manager maybe briefly, before I go to that, Citizen Crime Watch was included in the chief's statement. We have been really proactive to ensure that any information that gets sent out, as you all know, I sent out a mayor's report, the manager sent out the manager's report, and I use my email list that I've created in the last 12 years, and I put together, I disseminate that, and then I send it to the clerk, and I ask her to please disseminate it to the official email blast. Then I take it a step further, and I've asked the chief to please disseminate it to our block captains, and then we ask the block captains to disseminate it to their entire block, and then the manager sends it to her staff, and the clerk sends it to all of you. So I encourage you, that's pretty good communication protocol that we've been using to try to really touch as many people as we can in our village. And I say that to say that Citizen Crime Watch is essential in our village. And any member who, I mean, today precisely, there was a hit and run, and I was on a Zoom meeting with the county, and I kept getting a call and a text message from a resident who was trying to get through. I don't even know what number they were calling. They didn't specify. You still have residents that feel very comfortable calling that CP phone. And when they can't, they call one of us. And the chief like immediately was out there, and it was a hit and run, I believe. So he was able to get that today. So communication is key and essential. And I thank the chief for being able to do that today. And that was just really a product and a result of Citizen Crime Watch, because the person that contacted me was a block captain. They said, hey, I need your help right away. So thank you for doing that. And that literally happened right before this meeting, partly why I was a little on the late side, because I was actually talking to that resident. I want the manager to just reiterate and reconfirm where we're at with disaster emergency preparedness plan as it relates to, I know that it was touched on a bit with regards to who we're going to use, what's going to happen in the event there potentially may be a hurricane. And I wanted this manager to give us a brief overview on the disaster plan for the village.
Yes, we are connected now with the state, with the Florida Emergency Management or Division of Emergency Management to utilize any kind of mutual aid or piggyback contracts to do debris cleanup and to, stabilize the village after a hurricane, if that should come our way. We are going to be doing an RFP for this month for our solid waste contract, and in that there is a request, a responsibility that will come from solid waste to do the first round to respond, to assist with whatever we can get out of the roads just to secure the roads before the debris is picked up by the subsequent contractor. So that is in that RFP as well, and we also have that included in the present contract with our solid waste contractor, Waste Management. We are continuing with our hurricane tree trimming. Our contractor has had a few issues, but they are plugging away, still working on this to prepare our trees. Our police staff has secured a number of items needed, including we had to have our generator fixed, and we had to get some equipment for police staff. So we are all geared up with our hurricane preparedness internally, and the staff is versed on what to do, and as well as our IT, because they also play a part in the way we shut down, and then how we can work from home or share information until we're able to return back to Village Hall. So we're all on course where we need to be with contracts in place, and once we have our solid waste contract determined, that will get us even further down the road on this.
From the committee, any questions to the manager or to the chief? Okay. Do we have a dollar amount to where we're at? I know the last time we used the forfeiture funds, it was Councilperson Roman who asked to purchase those signages that have been placed on some of the streets. Do we have a dollar amount of what? I have two questions. Do we have a dollar amount of where we're at with forfeiture funds? And
Yes.
the next question I have is, what have we done? What can we do to participate in that county department that allowed us to receive these forfeiture funds? Because in the time that I've been here, I know we haven't had the opportunity, and I don't know if it's, I want to just have a better idea. Is it because we don't have an additional officer? Do we need an additional officer? What would it take to participate in receiving forfeiture funds from the county?
Well, as the first question, it's we have $12,512.42. The last time we used it was for the radar sign that was approved. In terms of the county and getting involved with forfeitures, I would have to look into that. I was more apt with contacts to try to go the Hyder route. and I was looking perhaps to having an officer out at HIDA, which is it would have been attached to DEA. They would have worked out there, and we would have been able to get some forfeiture funds. I have a good rapport with the director there. The manpower is not going to allow for that at this point, but going out to HIDA, having an officer out there would bring back some benefits for sure. I know a lot of larger agencies do it. It would be really a feather in our cap to be able to put in a smaller agency someone out there and get them into an area that's going to bring in money. And certainly that would be my goal. And I was told something, more along the lines with DEA or something to assist. And that would be a route to go. But as you said, we don't have that manpower to do so as far as giving that up. We would have to be part of some other large operations or something with the county, with the city, what have you, that has a nexus into El Portal per se, some way or other. And then when forfeiture proceedings take place, we would get a share of that. That's happened when I was with the city, and you had other municipalities that were joined in on that, whether from a narcotics level or even investigative. So right now we're stymied as far as that goes. I thought our best bet would have been something with HIDA.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions for the chief or the manager on forfeiture funds? Is there clarity as far as what we can use them for?
There's a statute that defines that as well, of what can be used for forfeiture funds.
If you can just email it to the committee, I'm aware. I don't know if the committee or the public is aware of that. So I think it's important to know. I know it's only $12,000, but it's still it's important to be aware of what we cannot use it for, right? So
Right.
as long as we all aware of that. Okay, that concludes pretty much our traffic report, because Operation Village-wide Cleanup, as we all know, with COVID-19 hitting us since the middle of March, all of our events have been canceled, postponed since then. And the cleanup would have happened during Earth Day in April, and it did not happen. And generally the next one would have been in October. So we'll see where we're at from here to October. The one thing I wanted to touch on real quickly is 2 more points, is fleet management and then COVID-19 and then the FAA. Now I'm going to ask the chief and the manager to give us a brief overview of the fleet management, exactly what we have, exactly what is needed, exactly what enterprise would say they would take back, how many cars would that leave us, so that we can have exact numbers as we move into budget, which is in the next couple of weeks. We can have a real idea as to, hey, we got to really budget for 1 car, for 2 cars, for 3 cars, because I understand that public safety is not the only department that's in need. We have a public works and a code enforcement that is also in need of a vehicle to be able to fully do the job that they need for all of our residents. So if the manager or chief, either one of you can give us a brief overview to the amount of cars in the fleet, what's needed, what's not needed, and what can actually be taken in as trade-ins with enterprise. If enterprise is the avenue you all want to go.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'll just preface all of what I know the chief will describe by saying that we've been working on this matter for a few months now, and I did present to the Admin and Finance Committee some, this enterprise deal for the village, and we have looked at procuring 8 vehicles, then 4 vehicles, and maybe doing staggered or perhaps just adding vehicles in phases. So after speaking with the mayor yesterday, we came up with a few numbers, and I know Chief will kind of give you a description of what we actually have and what we can get. So I'll let the chief discuss that.
Thank you, ma'am. Right off the bat, how many vehicles do we need? About 8. I'd say 8. Is there a way we can stagger it, like the manager said, the mayor? Yes. How many cars do we have in the fleet right now? I mean, if you drive by, or what should be out there if everybody was here at the same time? 22. How many are functional? How many would we end up keeping? 7. Okay. There is a plan in place. 5 of the cars out there that I say are no good are the 5 Homestead cars. They're all out of service. 1 was assigned to code enforcement. We gave 1 off the bat. there were 2 Doral cars. One has been assigned to Officer Lopez, the other one to the lieutenant. The Doral cars do work. They work. The spare cars, well, first of all, the Dodge Charger we have is out. So we had the 5 that are out. We have 7 spare vehicles out of service, which includes 2 Impalas and 5 Crown Vics. They're out. And I can give you a breakdown as to why they're out and what the issue is. Right? How many would we be keeping? There would be 7 cars we're keeping out of the total 22. But keep in mind the 22, a lot of them are no good from the get-go. They really got to go. It looks like the lot from Sanford and Son, the parking lot. They need to go. Enterprise will take the cars. They will take the 13 cars that need to go. The only thing we're going to get stuck with, and they don't get involved in that, and I get it, we have to pay for the destriping and removal of the police equipment on there. That comes out to about $300 per car. It's $150 for destriping, $150 for taking out the, and that was on a quote that was a couple months ago. We have 1 full-timer whose car is a 2014. That car will turn out to be a spare, and we'll bring in a couple cars. The new cars will then fill in the gap there. As we're looking down here, do we have the North Bay Village donated vehicles? That was a question. One has an electrical issue, no siren and wiring issues. It's not gonna be terribly expensive to fix, but it needs fixing. The other North Bay Village has an ABS brake issue. And taking it to different mechanics, they cannot find a module for that car. So that's a safety issue with the brakes. We can't mess with that. When the new vehicles come, they would go to the 2 officers. I would get it out to the lieutenant too, or another officer, and transfer whatever cars they're using back to the spare fleet. So we have then a robust fleet again. What else? So that's basically what we have right now. Right now, though, you know, the wish list, as you said, the 8 vehicles are needed. We can go with 3 and then trickle in for 3 or down the road for there. We can figure out a way to get that done. But as far as the full timers go, 1 car, that 2014, that's driven by Tynes, it's on the fritz. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. And our spare cars, which is what the part-time non-compensatory officers drive. I know Owen was out there today, no air conditioning. It's kind of rough in July. You know, and the other one, we just bombed it because of a roach infestation. I mean, now that's, you know, that'll get taken care of. The car's functional, but these cars are not in good shape. The take-home cars are in good shape. And I say Tynes car, it's a mechanical issue, but all those cars obviously are in good shape as well as I thought they would be for obvious reasons. But we are having issues again with some of these cars here. The spares, the Crown Vics are out of service, high mileage on some of them, but some of them don't have that high a mileage and they're no good anymore. They're just not functional. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and I'll add to the ones that are functioning. Those are some cars that were purchased, I believe, in 2016 or 17. They're presently out of warranty. So, you know, this is going to happen as these vehicles mature, and we are no longer in a place where we have newer cars. So I believe that the enterprise deal would be good for the village because we would never have old vehicles. They would just be termed out and replaced for a nominal fee. There's a price to pay up front to get the program started, but on an annual basis, it won't be as high as it would to just start the program. So if we do this in phases, there is a way to make it a lot more palatable for us, and maybe 3 initially, maybe 2 more in 6 months or what have you. But we will definitely come up with a plan for budget purposes so that you can see what that will look like for the village. I think is imperative. Our officers can't do their jobs without a vehicle. And I mean, even this weekend, I got a call, you know, $7,000 to repair one of the, we can't pay $7,000 for an 8-year-old car to be replaced. That's just not going to happen. So this is a good way for us to get out of this situation and hopefully never be back in this kind of situation again. But I think we can do it if we just do it in phases and be really realistic about our abilities.
Before I open up to the committee real quick, so I agree that there needs to be a plan. I will like to add to our track and report fleet management so that the committee is continually talking about the cost of the fleet management, which is the cars, and have a plan. And what does that plan look like? Back in about 2014, the former manager originally had bought like 3 cars, and back then we were going to come up with a plan, but that did not transpire. So I think it's really important that a plan. I think what I've asked the manager and what I've asked the chief to do for the entire council as we move into budget workshop is to let us know exactly what the need is, and then what the real need is. So, hey, you need 8 cars. We all know that we cannot get that in one fiscal year. So what does it look like to get 2 cars? What does it look like to get 2 cars a year after that? So that the village of El Portal has a tiered plan, and then be able to cover not only public safety, and I would encourage the public works and public code enforcement committees to also include as part of their tracking report. They don't have a fleet, they have a car, but both the code enforcement and the public works vehicle that we have today was all hard work that we got, and we got donated from Miami Beach a few years ago. They were not purchased cars. So we've been blessed with great relationships, and that has gotten us here. But I think, we need to continue with our great relationships, but also work on having a plan. And the plan is, this is what we have, this is what we need, but this is what we really need. And then, hey, let's come up with a plan, with a 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan for all the departments, police, public works, and code enforcement, and have it on a tracking report. So whoever's on the committee can continue tracking what's the cost, what's the expense, and hey, we may be in 2021, but we got a plan in 2023 to get a car. So I want to add fleet management to our tracking report. And then on fleet management, it would be the idea for the committee to hopefully continue that conversation. And then I'm going to open up to the committee, but as I said, I've asked the manager and the chief to come up with a solid and clear-cut plan. This is what we need. This is the cost. But hey, we can do it in a 5-year plan, in a 3-year plan, in a 2-year plan, in a 1-year plan, in a 7-year plan, so they can present it to the full council at the budget workshop. I'm going to open up to the committee for any questions or comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I may. I just have a question. So when I heard for example, the manager was just talking about the $7,000, Madam Manager, I don't know what the $7,000 was about, you know what I'm saying, or was for, or whatever, as far like mechanically. And the chief would know a lot about this also. But sometimes with government, I don't know if we have to use a certain mechanic that like the whole county uses or something like that. I don't know how that works. Is that the case, or do we have to find the mechanic ourselves?
They have, the city has a motor pool that's hired by the city or county. We can't use theirs. So we're not large enough to have our own motor pool.
Well, which is actually good, because the reason why I'm asking is this: a lot of times when you have certain companies, and Councilperson Roman is big about this also, a lot of times when you have certain companies that you use for a long period of time, they kind of get comfortable, and since they know all your cars are coming to them, they'll charge you over the amount than because if they felt like they had to compete with your business, then something that may cost $7,000 in actuality, if it's not, because $7,000 sounds like a new motor or a new.
Well, that's what it was.
Is that what it is?
That's what it was.
I didn't know what it was, but
that's
we
what.
just might. But that seems okay. But we just might have to keep our eyes open, because in the future we may be able to find, if we find other individuals who may give us better prices, because sometimes when you're with people for so long, they get real comfortable, and we might be able to find better prices.
Well, that's exactly what happened. We were using another place not far from El Portal. Okay. I don't want to embarrass on the air, I can tell you offline, but we found out that they weren't fixing much of anything. Okay. The price wasn't bad, but they couldn't fix it. I mean, and then you come back for something else.
The curve. That's all I was saying.
We are going to a very reputable place now. The high amount was that engine blown. That's what that was.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Manager.
I will, just to add to that, we're required per the collective bargaining agreement to use certified mechanics to repair all vehicles. That's one thing. And the second is that we were using, when I came on board as village manager, we were using one auto repair. We then moved into a relationship with another one because we didn't find that that repair business to be giving us a good enough deal, and the constant repair was too much. So we went on to another company. They did a great job, great prices, but decided to retire from work. So then we went into this relationship with Goodyear. So we will always look for a good price, because I agree, as an owner of an older vehicle, I know you have to shop around a little bit, but yeah, that will always be present, but we have to have a certified mechanic.
Any other comments or questions from the committee on this matter? Okay, hearing none. I wanted to touch real briefly on COVID-19. It's July 7th, and I apologize that I've not submitted a mayor's report, but I've been a little on the busy side more than usual. That's even manageable for me, but anyway. But COVID-19, as you all have been hearing in the news, there's been an uptake with cases, and our calls with the county mayor and the manager could tell you she's been in she's in every call with the managers in the county, and that is that what's being shut down. So the county mayor has not put out a new order. There's a little back and forth right now going on, but from the last call that I had, and my last call ended today at 4:40, and that is that the gyms will not close, that the beaches will reopen tomorrow. Public restaurant dining is closed inside. It's only open outside. And there's going to be a lot more conversation that's going to happen in the next few days. I will put that as part of my report for June, as far as some of the things that have been transpiring. I just encourage you all, as you all know, the county mayor put a mandate out right before the 4th of July weekend, where masks are required indoors and outdoors for the protection of not only yourself, of those around you. That's really the one thing that we can just continue to do consistently, all of us over the age of 2, to do in the hopes that until we all wait for a vaccine to come forward, that we can comply and help every community comply and every neighbor comply, so that we can make it through this current pandemic. And if you all did not see, Governor DeSantis yesterday, if not the day before yesterday, an order went out where all public schools will reopen 5 days a week as of August 24th. Now, there is a little bit of a debate, because if you read the order specifically, it says that you have to be, I think, in phase 2. Well, Miami-Dade County is not in the phase that it needs to be able to comply with that. If you are a current parent and your child goes to a Miami-Dade County public school, they've given you 3 options to answer whether you want your child to attend 5 days, do you want them to attend completely online, or do you want them to attend online and attend actual class. So there's still that conversation. The school board member that was on our call today said there has been nothing decided on Miami-Dade County level as it relates to August 24th. But as we move forward, I believe that when we may or may not, as I said on the call today, this is it's completely new for all of us. Doesn't matter if you've been in office 10 years, doesn't matter if you've been in office 2 years, doesn't matter if you've been in office in probably 20 years. We're all just collectively working together, trying to figure out how we are going to be able to work through this together and keep the primary objective. And the primary objective is to keep all of the citizens in Miami-Dade County and in our respective municipalities as safe as possible. And I do believe that that's the common denominator that every mayor has in Miami-Dade County. Maybe how we get there is not cohesive, but that is the end game that we all have and we're aiming for during this pandemic. That's COVID-19. I'm going to add actually COVID-19 to the tracking report, because as we all have heard, seen, or listened to, it doesn't seem like it's really going to be going anywhere. And I do believe that it's important on so many different levels. Number one, compliance. Number two, preparation in terms of a village as a whole. And number three, how can we as elected officials in public safety and all of us together really continue to deliver the same message out to every person when we're out there, whether it's walking our dog, walking our children, or hanging out with our neighbors. What message can we continually deliver that all is cohesive and consistent, as that is, hey, let's all do what we're supposed to do for the betterment of our community and better for Miami-Dade County as a whole. And on that note, I just want to touch on real briefly to the clerk and to actually everybody on here. And I've done it to my staff. And if you're not feeling well, don't come in, and you should not feel afraid, scared, worried, concerned that because you're ill, you would ever lose your job. I think it's important that if you're not ill, you let us know and you don't come in. And it applies for all of us. Hey, I'm guilty of thinking that I can tolerate everything and I always show up. But if you're not feeling well, whether whoever you are, police officer, just let whoever your boss is, your supervisor is, chief, manager, the mayor, whoever it is, applies to all of us. If you're not feeling well, just don't come in, work from home, or if you can't work, it goes back to just communication. Just let us know. I would hate to hear that anybody, I mean, public safety, public works, and code enforcement is important, but nothing's more important than the health of an employee, of a person, of a child, the husband, wife, aunt, uncle, grandmother, abuelo, it doesn't matter. Nothing supersedes the life of a human being. So I wanted to say that before I open up to public comments. I think that's really important, because I think we all think that we can do everything and we can't. It's just too hard to do that. So I open it up to the committee. If not, I'll open it up to good and welfare. Does the committee have any questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I may. Are we still, and forgive my ignorance, but I remember I asked this last time, are we still really good with our supplies for COVID-19 supplies? I'm just asking because, you know, everybody's saying that there could be that second wave when winter comes and things like that. And I just don't want us to be lost if like there's a great snatch up, you know, nationwide of supplies and things like that. I want us to be, you know, proactive, order things in advance. Even if we have to order, like, you know, like over order in a term in advance, just so we're prepared and we're not around, you know, running around trying to find things if there is a second wave and people do start to, like, you know, hoard a lot of stuff. That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Chief, did you want to answer that, or the manager?
Our supply is good, but we already have it planned that within the next month or two, even before this uptick, whatever you want to call this second phase now, or the continuation of the first one, even before this, we have a plan in place to start ordering some more stuff, and we're getting to that point now. Not that we need it, but thinking ahead, as you said. That's our plan before people start jumping into it. But I'm sure everybody's thinking the same thing, so it's still going to be the same battle. But we'll get it. We're still stocked very well. We got an inventory. We're good. Thank you.
Councilperson Roman? Chief, I don't know if I don't recall if I shared with you or with the manager, but either way, I'll share it to all of you is, and to really echo what the vice mayor just said, I want to add one more thing, and that is, we don't know what July and August, September, and October are going to bring us as it relates to hurricane season. So I really think it's important to plan, because I'd hate to be in the middle of a hurricane and the pandemic is at a even more concerning rate, and then you're trying to place an order, and guess what? No one's shipping. Everything's back ordered because we're dealing with a hurricane crisis. So, you know, really work on that with the manager as it relates to having exactly what the department and all of the employees at the village hall would need. Okay.
Would it be the right time now if I'm talking about one other piece of equipment that I find is very imperative that I need to bring up now?
Mm-hmm. You can, absolutely.
I know we talked about the cars. There's some other pieces of equipment that we need in terms of the demonstrations and protests to protect the officers. But what I'm going to jump in between that is something that is extremely important. That's our ECDs, our electronic control devices, or for lack of a better word, our tasers. There needs to be a revamping of just about the whole supply. We have many of the ECDs that were bought years ago. They were not put on an extended warranty. Some are non-functional. There's no batteries. There's no cartridges. And here's the point I'm trying to make. And there is an expense to replacing every one of them. I give you that. But here's the thing. We already have them passed out to the officers. They're a great intermediate device. And I was on scene for one such incident last summer where a guy lunged at 2 of my officers with a knife and he was tased. He came from a distance, so the taser was the proper thing, and it stopped him. Had they not had the taser, they would have shot him, and it would have been a good justified shooting. The fact of the matter is being able to have to do something and having to do it are 2 separate things. What you wouldn't want either is a non-functioning taser or ECD at the time where you would have needed in that situation, and then you're sort of, out of luck. There should have also been with these tasers a data port download kit, which the supervisors, commanding officers, myself could see how often these tasers have been utilized aside from training, so we can keep accurate records of that. That wasn't purchased. It's not there yet. The cost, to replace everything is upwards of $20,000 for everything. For the 18 or the 16 new tasers for everybody, including the part-timers, to have on them. And I will say this, as we bring out the quotes and everything else that moves forward with this, not to have an ECD, or certainly a functioning one, but not to have an ECD as part of the officer's equipment would be a huge mistake. They need this piece of equipment. And again, it's that one last stop before having to use or resort to deadly force. And I'm having an issue. I just had one turned into me the other day, said it's just not working. And so there needs to be a whole revamping, this time with an extended warranty also, because some of the items that we can fix, they're slightly less than what it would cost to buy a new one now with a full warranty, because they've upgraded. Axon has upgraded their equipment. So I just want to bring that up moving forward, that it's an important piece of equipment for law enforcement, and it's in bad shape by and large. It needs to be fixed right away. And that was something that I could not pick up on last year that quickly before we had the budget season talking about this new fiscal year. It took a little bit longer to get settled in, and things started going little by little and doing full inventories and stuff. You come to realize that we have an issue here. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other issue is, again, is equipment. We had the protests. In time of protest, there are certain things we need. Ballistic helmets, I think we need that. BDU uniforms, gas masks. Now, I'm not asking for tear gas. I want to make that clear. But in the event that something did go south and something did transcend on the El Portal City Hall / police department, or 2 or 3 officers on duty or there, they were going to have to hold the fort until we get back up from the shores, the county, the city, in which case they would be the ones, if they need be, to get the station back, use tear gas. And in which case we need to have that sort of equipment. We are very limited on the tactical equipment that we need. Now that's not, and it's to say, just because we've never needed it before, doesn't mean we're not going to need it moving forward. It should always be there for the officers to have. So that's of high importance. I know that's a discussion to have later at the budget hearing, but those are the areas, the cars, the ECD, and some of the equipment that we need in the event with these protests and demonstrations, if they are to mount up again. Just because we're off the beaten path doesn't mean we wouldn't be a target moving down. They did show the propensity of taking over a station in Minneapolis. I would not want that to happen here. So that's it. I just wanted to put everybody on notice. These are the areas we need. And again, I look forward to a good, robust discussion in a couple of weeks with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments from the committee to the chief?
Yes, Madam Mayor, very, very quickly. The gas masks, Chief, how much are gas masks?
Got a price right here. They're expensive now. For the entire department, the gas mask would be excess for the entire one, $7,000. They're expensive. Gas masks are expensive. The helmets with the face shields are far less, oddly enough. But yes, there's $7,000, upwards, over 7,000, like 7,500, depending on the size chart and verification and making sure it fits inside the helmets. So that does come with an expense.
Because you guys would need those even if it didn't come down to El Portal. So let's say, for example, if something happened just in the county or in the city of Miami or downtown or something, a lot of times, won't they call in extra officers from other municipalities to come in and help?
I think more likely if something happened in the north end part of the city of Miami, right across the street, or in the shores on the boulevard, or maybe over in the shores or Biscayne Park right there.
Okay.
We would be, yeah, they would ask us for assistance right off the bat if it was something they couldn't handle. And we would, as many as if it was there or whoever we can call in, would go there and assist as best we can. Going downtown, I don't think they would need us or utilize, our amount of manpower down there. I think they're sufficient. And once in the city of Miami, once they had their backups come up to the let's just say 87 or 86 in the boulevard, then they would probably relieve us, just so we can assist them in holding the fort down till they get backup. But yeah, I mean,
because my concern is just that if we are ever called, like just in case hopefully God willing it doesn't happen in El Portal, but if any of your men are ever called to help out another department, I don't want us to be the only ones showing up without gas masks if they decide to use tear gas. You see what I mean? If they decide to use tear gas and it's like, oh, only the El Portal officers, everybody has gas masks. We're the only ones sitting there with no gas masks. I just wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah,
either.
right now we would have a problem if they deployed tear gas and we were there. We would have a big problem.
I want the those who are causing the trouble to have to run from the tear gas, not the El Portal officers also joining those who would have to run and take cover. So yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, sir.
Councilperson Roman?
Can we use the forfeiture funds for any of those things mentioned?
I'm going to look into that. That's a good question with gas masks. I know you can't use it for cars and other normal police equipment. I'm going to say I don't think so, but it's worth asking that question. Mm-hmm. I don't believe we can, but I'll check.
Yeah.
And Chief, I'm sorry, Mayor, I also, I forgot to ask you this, Chief. Perhaps are there any grants out there for these items?
I can check. I'm not sure. Not specifically. I haven't specifically checked for gas mask or that type of equipment right now.
I know there was one for vests, and we missed an opportunity a couple of years ago with the former police leadership. So, I don't want us to lose out if we have a chance. So just keep that in mind too when you look. Thank you.
The vest grants usually, just FYI, because I was in touch with the gentleman, it's enough for one vest. I mean, that's better than nothing, but it is just one vest. It's not going to be a large supply of equipment in any case, but
anything helps.
That's right.
Any other comments from the committee? Chief, before I continue on, real quick on the vest, does every police officer, let me start off with full-timers, every full-timer have a vest?
Yes. Yes.
Are they wearing them?
Yes.
What about our part-timers?
I'm not sure if they all have vests. I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, I think it's good to know.
Yeah.
That'd be good to know. At least one.
We don't have a directive in place of mandatory vest wearing.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
No, I'm actually familiar with that. Yes, but just curious. I mean, that's
okay.
Actually,
that's a good question to ask. I will.
Okay. Committee, any other questions? Hearing none. Anything from the manager, the attorney, or the committee before I move to good and welfare?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I can just update the committee on 2 events since we last met. We received the arbitrator's ruling in the arbitration grievance from former interim chief Ronnie Huffnagel. The arbitrator upheld both Ms. Huffnagel's demotion and termination from the village. The only caveat to the ruling was that the village would be responsible for her back pay during the period of November 2018 through February 2019. The second event since our last meeting was that we did conduct the Florida Public Employees Relations Commission impasse hearing concerning the PBA's step plan retention request, which we were at impasse with. That hearing was conducted on the evidentiary hearing, I should say, was conducted over the Zoom platform before arbitrator Jeannie Charles. The next step is that the transcript of the evidentiary hearing has to be ordered. We expect to get that in about 30 days, and then after that, the parties have to file proposed recommended findings and proposals for her to consider. So I'll just keep you all up to date as things progress.
Before I open up to the committee and then public comments thereafter, any other updates, as I know that you're meeting every Friday with the League of Cities, Miami-Dade League of Cities attorneys?
Yes, unfortunately, I did not make last week's meeting. The last meeting of concern was the resolution that we adopted, imploring the county mayor to disseminate funds received through the CARES Act through the municipalities. I believe we're going to have another meeting on Friday, which I will participate on, which will get an update, hopefully, on where that stands.
Any questions from the committee to the chief, attorney, manager, or myself? Hearing none, before I open up to public comments, I just received a text message from a resident. She is watching it right now, but is not computer savvy. She wants me to read this into the record. Good evening, Mayor. Apologies for texting, but I'm watching from TV and I'm not that computer savvy. My point is that maybe there should be some kind of pamphlet distributed among the village of how important it is to follow the coronavirus policy among our village family, because everybody isn't on Nextdoor, nor are that computer savvy like myself. And this is Lynn Purcell, who lives, I don't have her exact address, she didn't text it to me, but I believe it's on Northeast 89th Street. So she sent that to me, and I wanted to just be sure to include that real quick before I move into public comments. All right, thank you. I want to thank you all. Let me go ahead and open it up to Good and Welfare. It is now 8:46, and that open up to Good and Welfare. I see that we have 5 attendees. If anybody has any questions, better said, have any comments with the agenda beforehand, please do so. 3 minutes per member. All right, this is still the Public Safety Committee meeting. I see Tiffany, no, she put her hand down. I don't know if Kyle, you see anybody. I don't know if the clerk sees anybody. I keep seeing a hand come up and down. Tiffany Thorne, did you need to come in for a question? I don't see any hands. Seeing none, I will close public comments for the Public Safety Committee for Tuesday, July 7th, and bring it back to the committee. Anything before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Oh, wait, I see a hand. Uh-oh, stand by. Let me open up to public comments again, because I know Tiffany Thorne keep coming in and out. Kyle, if you can let Tiffany Thorne allow to talk so she can address the committee, please.
There we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tiffany Thorne, 11 Northeast 89th Street.
Yes, welcome.
Hi. Yes, I just have a few questions. I was affected by the car burglaries a couple of times. One of them, in fact, the one picture of the guy in the gas station was because of me and my car. But I don't know pretty much what's going on, so I want to see how I can get involved to help with this issue. But my question is, I'm hearing that we only have like 1 policeman at nighttime. Is that accurate? And if it is there any way we can get more? I pretty much have just been, well, the guy, you know, it was like 2 weeks ago. Then he came back again and got the neighbor across the street. He tried with my car. He had a bike, and I have Vivint cameras, so we kind of, you know, have my footage there. But, you know, I kind of wake up and, you know, I like how Chief said to, you know, look out the window. I kind of turn on my little monitoring on my phone and, to say, because it was at like 2:40 both times, like around the same time. So I just want to know, what can we do? I mean, I appreciate the conversation of coming here and hear, okay, yes, they know, they're aware. But, when you're hearing your victim is like, okay, is there anything else we can do at night to help with this situation?
Hey, Tiffany, I want to first thank you for really taking the time. And I've seen you here for quite a while waiting as an attendee, and having been burglarized in my car a few times, not in El Portal. I know how personal that is. So I'm going to ask real briefly if the chief, can you please address Tiffany here?
Sure. First of all, I'm sorry that you got victimized. We were looking all over for that young man with the Cavalier shirt on. We thought we had a solid
And
lead.
the blue bike.
And the blue bike, well, the blue bag on the seat, whatever that was, but yeah. And there was something going on in that area, and we're setting up on it. I know we had a similar situation weeks before, and we sat up and we caught the person. It's just we're going to have to do another undercover detail up in the area, or supplement a couple people so we can get out there and keep an eye out. Again, it's maybe coming off of Miami Avenue North. We have identified some areas in the county off of 80 Terrace. That's like their own private flea market. And we go down there anytime there's any sort of thefts. We haven't found anything yet, but I've alerted the county to that over there. They're getting these items from somewhere: coolers, lawnmowers, things like that you just know they don't belong there. And that's like right off of Miami Court and 80 Terrace. It's our job to do something, and we just need to set up and sit there and wait for somebody to come out there. Also, we're looking into and addressing some of the abandoned houses where the squatters are. We've already got a few of them out of there. We're looking for other locations. I know there's a location right in the middle of that place that we've been addressing each and every day, where there's people legitimately staying there, but we have a little bit of a concern about what may be going on there. It's nothing we can hang our hat on now. But what can the neighborhood do in the middle of the night, aside from the lights and looking out? Really, I'd be heck bent to tell you what more you can be doing. It's for us to be out there and just catch this person or people, and that'll be my commitment. We got to get out there and catch them, and that's what we're doing. It doesn't help any to say that it's going on right now. It's been an uptick in the last month because it was relatively quiet. And that's why we're believing that they're coming up off of Miami Avenue, going over the bridge there, and then right off of Miami Avenue, before you even get to Northeast 2nd Avenue. We're out there, we're stopping people, don't have enough to catch them on anything right now, but we'll just continue on. We're gonna set up on some detail out there and set up and wait and watch. It may not bear any fruit that night, but we're gonna see what we can do to catch these people.
Hey, Tiffany, and to the chief, and before I ask the committee if they want to add anything, do we have 11 Northeast 89th? So she is between First Avenue and 2nd Avenue, Northeast of 89.
Miami and First.
Miami First, excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. Do we have a block captain for that street?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check on the addresses on the block captain. I would check on it.
So I know Tiffany just stepped away, but maybe that's something we can circle back on.
Yes.
To see if something she wants to maybe be a part of. Tiffany, I just asked the chief if you're between North Miami Avenue and First Avenue. I asked him if we have a block, if you have a Citizen Crime Watch block captain for that block. If not, then, and I believe our most recent councilperson Perella, no, I think he's between 2nd and 3rd, maybe on 89th. So maybe if we don't have a block captain, if there's something you want to maybe follow through with the chief, and if you want to potentially and motivate your block to be a part of the Citizen Crime Watch. I know the police chief and as well as his department and his representative are pretty active, and we really use our block captains to disseminate information. So maybe that's an opportunity to bring you on board and kind of help out and be a part of, what we can do to better each block as we move along. So it's something I thought about real quick, and then I want to ask the committee if they have any questions or any comments to the chief or to Tiffany.
No, I did see that your next door neighbor was on, Alexandra, but she hung up, so or left, the meeting, and so I'm sure she was here for the same concern. So, Chief, we had
Yes.
both the houses on.
Because we both have been, hit, numerous times. And the other house across the historic house on the corner,
Yes.
that was the one, they got her computer. And the thing is, they came back to my car and left his bike right outside of my car. Then he couldn't get in and he went over there, came back with a computer and a Amazon package. Saw it was makeup, dropped it beside my car. So when I came out, I'm like, somebody threw trash. I'm going to pick up trash. And then I realized kind of what was going on. So whoever he is, he's just very bold. I got as much as I could from the camera, but frankly, I guess the lighting, wasn't enough to get really clear. But I'm thinking it's the same guy because he was on a bike and that other guy was on a bike and they came back to me. Those are my credit cards that he, got.
Just so you see, I have put a chart together where
Okay.
where people are being affected, and you can see a
Wow.
discernible pattern there. I'm
Yeah.
on top of it, and the people know, our officers know where, in fact, to address it, and and where to mount up from, because it could be
Okay.
somebody right in here too. We're checking the houses up in there too, where there's any squatters. But there is a pattern right here. You see it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're addressing. So I just wanted to let you know we're on it, and
Okay.
we just got to catch the person.
Well, I do try to watch my camera now. I wake up and, have it on and I have the volume of the same thing as you said and have
Right.
it right there. So, if I hear anything, but,
And that's a 911 call. If somebody's in your yard, that's a 911. A lot of people lose track. They think, well, it's not really an emergency. And I will submit to you, if you need the police there in a hurry, it's a 911 call.
yeah.
And you
Okay.
do need
Yeah,
the
I didn't
police
catch
there
it
in a hurry.
I didn't catch it when it was going on.
Right, I know.
It was after, yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's a good idea about the, I guess the watch for the street.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, we need it. I just don't feel, I don't know. I've been here since 1998 and, my confidence level is kind of going down and, just because it's just the times here.
We're going to restore your confidence. We're out there. We'll catch these people. It's just sometimes it just takes time. We got to be, sometimes at the right place at the right time and wait for them. Something's going on in the immediate area in the last couple of weeks, and usually
People lost their jobs.
They're very well, yeah, but they're very predatory too. They'll keep hitting the same area rather than branch out, and that's going to be their biggest mistake because it makes it a little easier for us to set up on that area.
Chair, if I may, Chief, one of the questions that Tiffany asked was, about the police, if we have two or that she had not. So I'm just wondering if you can address that. I know that I've seen, and we get the schedule, but I've seen two cars, more so during the day. And so maybe you want to address with Tiffany, what we're doing with there.
Well, the calls for volume are greater in the day. We use, when they say the officers are alone, swing shift, and when we have a swing shift, then they will be alone for certain parts of the night, at night, all right? It's usually not the whole shift. Occasionally it could be. If somebody's out sick, and we do have people out sick and or injured, then that can be the case. Otherwise, we have a swing shift, and that can bring them out to 2 in the morning. So we have double shift up until 1 or 2. And then sometimes when we have our part-timers, some of them do come in and they'll work midnight to 5. That'll supplement it, but that's not going to be every day. And really, I don't want to put out too much over the air on a schedule of what we're doing. I don't think it's secure to do so. I don't know who may be listening or what about what our manpower is. But there are going to be times when, yes, they are out there, by and large by themselves. And that's one thing I would love to change.
Do the cameras, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Do the cameras work? I remember seeing cameras like on, I don't know, Northeast 2nd. I know I've seen some cameras on some major roads that's saying that this was
you're being viewed. I don't believe they do. I have not heard any usage on them. I don't think so.
We had red light cameras here back in probably 2009 and maybe 10 or 11. And the manager took I think they were taken down because the revenue that the city was getting was not relative to what the expense was to have it. And you're right, there are cameras on Northeast 2nd Avenue. But if you see them, they're there, but they're not
They're
functioning.
not working.
Okay.
But I wanted to add something real quick to what everybody has just said, Councilperson Roman, to Tiffany, and to the chief, and that is that, you know, I understand we don't have enough officers at night, but the point is that I think it's important that to note to every single person, if there is a concern and you feel like your life is threatened, you must call 911. You must use the numbers, because when we ask for assistance, when we ask for more money and we ask for all this, it's based on data and it's based on measurements of all of that. So if residents are not calling, then there's no data to back up our need. So I think there are times that our residents for so long were used to a phone that we have that was a community policing phone, but the community policing phone doesn't get documented to data for the county. So when we go in for like reduced speed, we go in for concerns for help for the corridor of the county, whether it's the north side or whether it's the intercoastal, all of that is contingent upon data. So I would encourage every single resident to call 911, to call 305 police, because all of that is documented in data. A clear case was today exactly. I was in a meeting and I kept getting a text message from a resident that wanted me to contact the police because I was a hit and run. And I kept telling the resident, you have to call 911, you have to call 305 police, but they don't want to hear that from the mayor. They're like, I expect you to be there. So I immediately texted the chief, but the point is it's so important to call because we need that historical data and documentation so that our case is made better, if that makes any sense. And I don't know if the chief wants to add anything to that. So, but calling 911 and calling 305 police stays historically somewhere that if we need something to back up our need to have more police officers and to have more resources, is having that backup data that there's actually a real concern in the nighttime hours. I see Vice Mayor Nickerson's hand up.
Yes, Madam Mayor. First of all, Ms. Thorne, again, just sorry about what happened to you, because it's interesting, because when it's a house or when it's your car or whatever it is, you feel so just like somebody violated your space to the fullest extent. And that's something that you really can't get around or kind of can't get out of your mind. Even when things are over and when it's all like settled down and things like that, you still have that kind of like somebody was like in my personal stuff. You know what I mean? It's a weird feeling when that happens. I did want to say what the mayor was just saying was kind of like what I raised my hand initially to hit on, and that was the data. I did want individuals to know that not only, first of all, should you call 911, but when the mayor was just saying the 305 for police, that is the non-emergency line, everybody who may not know that. And it's the numbers 305, the number 4, and then spell out the word police. So it's not FOR police, you guys, okay? For everybody knowing that, it's 305, the number 4, and then the word police. That's the non-emergency line. So that's the line to where if it's not an emergency, anything else that you may think, is this an emergency or is it not an emergency, call 911 just to be safe. So if you ever have to think about it in your mind, if it is or if it isn't, don't even, 911, 911. Okay, with that data piece that the mayor was talking about, I did want the chief to clarify that the reason why we have our officers staffed the way we have them staffed, as far as how many people per shift, is because of data that we have, correct? I just don't want people to think that we're just staffing, 2 people at a certain time because we just want to staff 2 people at that particular time, or because somebody just wanted that schedule. I want to make sure that those type of rumors aren't out there. We staff according to how many people are needed on a particular shift, according to the data of the action or of the, high capacity calls on a particular shift, correct, Chief?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And sorry again, Ms. Thorne.
Thank you.
Any other, hey, Tiffany, I appreciate you so much being on here. And I wanted to just close on saying that if you have not done so, go to our village website, which is elportalvillage.com. If you go to the right side of the homepage, there's going to be a button, sort of a search window where you can type in your name and email address. And then our village clerk will send you all of the regular updates that we do, from memos from the manager, message from the mayor, message from the chief, message from any council person on here, and then all of our public agendas. And I would encourage you to follow through with the chief, or any of us for that matter, as it relates to Citizens Crime Watch, as I know that the chief is working with his officers, or the officer that is working through who represents the Citizens Crime Watch, to have his upcoming Zoom meeting, because we really have been using during this COVID-19, especially that we are also socially distant, as a communication to get out there more. We've been using our block captains a lot to be able to help us disseminate information. So I thank you so much for being here this evening and for reaching out for us. And we're easy to get a hold of. My email is on the website. That's Mayor Cubillos at thevillageofelportal.org, police chief at villageofelportal.org, village manager at villageofelportal.org. And I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know vice mayors, and I don't know council person Romans. I apologize. I don't know them. So, but I would encourage you more than anything, go to the website, sign up on the homepage to get our clerk's updates. We sent her all of the information that we believe that the residents need to know, in terms of information and messages and memos, and really follow through with regards to wanting to maybe be a Citizen Crime Watch captain, block captain.
All right, I'm doing it now. Thank you.
And you have a beautiful background.
Uh,
I would love to be there right now.
All right.
All right. Any other comments before we leave you, Tiffany? And again, thank you so much for being here this evening.
You're welcome. No, that's good. And the whole thing about dialing 911, I know for me personally, I'm still looking for that 305, I think a 798, some sort of number. When I think about El Portal, I don't think 911. In fact, the morning that I realized that it happened, I was thinking, what is that number? I can't find it now. I'm just going to drive down there, because that's how we used to do, you know, back in the day, but things are different now. So
the resident that called me today, I didn't recognize the number off the top, and they kept texting me, and they were trying to call the CP phone, and I'm like, wow, that has to be in existence in 4 years. But they were trying to call the community policing phone number. So when I sent them 3054 police, they're like, no, call the police department. So I thank the chief and he came out here, and I think he addressed a hit and run. So yes, it's sort of a little bit of re-education, but 305 police gets documented. And but you can always text any of us in terms of our cell phones or any of that nature. But I thank you for being on here this evening and waiting. And I usually don't take this long in a meeting, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Any other public comments? All righty, seeing none, I'm going to open up to back to the council. Anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the public safety meeting for July concludes at 9:07 p.m. Thank you. Have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you.